Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the HJ Platinum Podcast, where we talk about everything real estate and we just kind of give you insight on things that you might necessarily not have learned. Today is Friday, February 2nd, and today I'm talking about the common misconceptions people make when buying a house, or basically the mistakes people do or just overlook when they're looking at buying a home. The first thing I want to talk about is like the biggest thing is when you're looking to buy a house, what are some first things that people typically do, right? They get online, they start searching for properties, and they look, oh, I like this house. And then okay, who do I know? Right. Let me call my agent or my buddy or whoever. And you look to make those phone calls. And sometimes it gets a little bit tricky when it goes down the process. You may call your buddy and say, hey, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, whoever it is that's the agent, and says, hey, I want to see this house. And you want to go rush to look at it. And sometimes they'll show you, sometimes they'll kind of give you a little bit of a, hey, what's up with your pre-approval? But you still got to go take a look at the house. And um, but you haven't started the process yet. You haven't even started, you just kind of decided, I'm gonna buy a house, and you start looking around. And that rush to judgment sometimes can lead you to, being very disappointed, because without the right information, you could be looking at a house you can't afford. That's always a possibility if you're looking at a house without being pre-approved. So it's the first step in any of these processes is finding a lender and getting yourself pre-approved to make sure you can buy a house, because there's nothing worse than getting excited to buy a home and realizing that oops, I'm about $150,000 off. I cannot buy a house according to my income and assets. So that's the first thing. One of the first misconceptions people make, they kind of jump and rush the game a little bit. Number two is just kind of looking at the first person you talk to. Hey, I bank with, X and Y bank, and I'm going to go, talk to my banker and find out what I'm approved for. And they tell you either you're not approved, or they give you just a rate you don't like, a payment you don't like. And you're just like, okay, I'm dead in the water. I don't like it. I don't want to buy a house right now. It's always great to get a second opinion if you're looking at buying a home, just to see kind of what that looks like. Sometimes different lenders have overlays and different charges that you may not have at other places. And some lenders are, credit unions, lenders. If you're a veteran, there's a lot of options. First time home buyers, there's a lot of options. And all lenders are not created equal. So, find one that you like, and work that way. I have a handful I use, and they're really good lenders, but you got to find something that works for you. Um, Thirdly, the biggest thing is one of the bigger things is I don't want to work with the real estate agent. So, or am I going to work, or what do I find a real estate agent, or who do I use? And I have 10 people that I know that are agents, and if I use so and so, then so and so is going to get mad at me, and so I just prefer not to use one. I'll just use the listing agent. You know, all that's possible, but you got to find an agent that you like to work with, that you're comfortable with, that it makes sense, because otherwise you end up looking at properties and you're not really knowing, right? You don't want to go into a situation where you don't know who you're working with, or you're not comfortable with who you're working with. And so it just makes the process a little more convoluted. But you can definitely buy a property without using an agent. That's possible. I would not recommend that, because there's a lot of like nuances and things you may not know when it comes to buying a home. And you want to make sure you're doing all your proper due diligence to make sure nothing gets missed, and you're not left holding a bag that you're not ready for. Um, Another thing is just biting off more than you can chew, right? You don't want to get into a home that, according to the lender, you can afford it, but your income better than anybody else. So you know what you have at the end of the month and what you can afford to spend and what you can't. So I could tell you a story. When I bought my first house, I remember I actually lost money in my first property trying to buy a property. I went to a new construction and bought the house. I was all excited, got in the contract, put down my deposit, super excited. And when I went in there was the price was like 275, and I was, yeah, this is perfect. I can buy this house. But when we left the design center and it was all said and done, the price of the home was 365. And I remember the payment came back way different than what we initially talked about. And because I put down my $5,000, you can't back out, because you signed for all those upgrades. You can't just back out. You're stuck with it. Like either you follow through or you lose your deposit. And I was like, no way, I want to get my deposit back. And or I want to buy the house. And the lender told me, "Oh, you're approved though, buddy. You can buy the property." And I said, "I don't want to pay that because I don't know. I don't want at the end of the month. I don't want to be left holding that bag. It's just a little. It's a little more than what I'm comfortable with. I don't care what my income says. I don't want to buy that." So we ended up backing out, and I fought for my $5,000 back. I fought, and I lost it. They kept my $5,000, but it was a $5,000 learning lessons. And I'm sorry, father-in-law. I know you paid for that one, but still, that was a rough one for us to get in that one. But yeah, we ended up having a bad one on that situation. And according to the bank, I could afford it, but it wasn't like a friend of mine. It was just somebody that was telling me I'm approved, and it was at a bank. I just didn't like that situation because I felt like I got played, and nobody likes that feeling. So be careful when you're buying a house because you don't want to bite off more than what you can chew, because it can get ugly when you have to pay that mortgage every month. Another thing to do is check your credit before you go in. I mean, a lot of times they could be a little off. It could be a variation, like Credit Karma or whoever you use, your bank or whoever but just check your credit so you kind of have an idea where you're at. So when you can start talking to different lenders, give them your scores that is hey, my score says online I'm a 740. What does that look like on your end as far as rates and terms and stuff like that? Give me some numbers. And that helps you guys when you're shopping, just to see kind of what that looks like before you start pulling your credit and running that, because you don't want to be running your credit. And once you run it one time, you're going to get a bunch of phone calls. Everybody's going to start calling you for a loan. So just be careful with that one. But just check that to know where you're at so you're not blindsided when you go in there. Maybe you find something on your credit that you didn't know about, and you're like, "Oh my God, let me take care of that before I go try to buy a house." So that stuff is all stuff you want to do before getting into that process. And then when you actually get into the transaction, you do find a good agent, you do find a good lender, and you start the process of buying a house. Let me just give you some good advice. Never waive your inspections. There's things you can waive, like maybe if you're paying all cash, you can waive the appraisal. If you feel like your loan is solid, you have really good credit and good income, you can waive your loan. But I would never recommend waiving your inspections, because although you might have excellent credit or all cash to buy a property, and you may feel like the appraisal is going to be just fine, yada yada yada. And when you start inspecting the home, when you start doing home inspections, there's things you may not see when you walk through it. And maybe something going on with the roof, something with your plumbing, something behind the walls that you can't see. And you buy the house as is, and you get in there and find out it's a nightmare or it's a money pit. And you don't want to be caught with that one either. That's one of the ones that you just want to make sure you keep your home inspections. We have a lot of good home inspections that we use. Inspection companies that we use, but I would recommend never waiving a home inspection, because again, you want to know what you're getting yourself into. Even if the seller says, "I have all these reports from this inspection company and they've already done the work, and I'll tell you right now, and then we're not giving," I don't care. You need to do your own due diligence and make sure you're checking, double checking what they told you they did. It could have been a buddy of theirs who did the inspection, who signed off on it and said it's all good. You just never know. So you want to just err on the side of caution and make sure you do your home inspections. And then another thing is that when you're buying the house, make sure you're not cash poor. Like when you finish closing escrow, make sure you're not using all your money. Don't use all your money and end up going in this thing and you're like, "Oh, I'm ready to go." And then you're like, "Oh, where's my money at? I can't buy furniture. I can't do this. I can't." You do not want to be in that situation, because it's just not worth it. Just wait, save up a little bit more money. Just wait. It's not time to buy it yet. Don't overdo it. That can hurt you in the long run. It can cost you headache that you don't want to cause, arguments with your family members. You don't need that at all. Because you have things that pop up like property taxes, surprise little, repairs. Oh, psych, your plumbing went bad in the back. But make sure you get the home warranty when you're buying the house. The seller generally pays for the home warranty, but just make sure you get it. And so and you know what it is, you know where it is. You're not just running when you get the house. You're so excited you forget that you have the home warranty for the first year. That way, if something does go wrong with the house, you got a warranty on it and you can get it repaired. And that's good. That's really good there. There's a lot of these programs too with loans when it comes to buying a home, where you can get like the house for literally no money down at all. Just make sure that that's something that you want to do. I mean, there's a lot of properties, I got clients who use them in certain situations. It's great, but just make sure you use it the right way. But if you have no money down to pay, maybe it may not be the right time to buy a house. Now, if you have money saved up and you want to just use this program because it's what you want to do, great. but just know what you're getting yourself into. So, um, and lastly, I just like I say, be cognizant, be aware of what product you're using when it comes to loans. And then and just make sure you got the right deal across the board. Just your neighborhood, you got to know your neighborhoods. Know your, walk around the neighborhood. I always recommend driving by at night. If you're planning on buying a house before you make your offer, drive by on a Saturday night and just kind of get a feel for the neighborhood. If it's scary when you're driving by at night, probably not a good idea to buy a home in that neighborhood. But um, that is just my 2 cents. I want to give that to you guys. Just I felt like it's something that I wanted to just share because I'm getting a lot of questions, and I feel like sometimes things get missed. But I can just go out and do this. And there's a lot of variables that goes into this. You just got to be aware and make sure you know what you're doing before you buy. It's always, everybody's time frame of buying is a different time, and sometimes we make the right choice, and sometimes we don't. And I'm just trying to help and make sure you guys all make the right decisions. Whether you're buying in New York, California, Texas, wherever it's at, just make sure you make the right decision. So that's it for me today. I have nothing else. Please enjoy your weekend. And that is it from HJ Platinum. Have a great day.